So no being like, I have no name. That counts. I'm sorry. The amount of times that my friends have out rules lawyered me at games astonishes me, because I like to think I know my rules pretty well, the rules of whatever game we're playing. And then they'll be like, hey, what about this or this or this? Or if you're using this logic, then shouldn't this mean this? And I'm always like, I wish I was a Fae creature, because the Fae don't care about the real people's rules. They care about their own. And that'd just be really nice to sometimes say like, I see your logic. No. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Fae creatures and rules and things that you can use within your games, whether it's Monster of the Week or D&D or writing a book, to have like a clear guide to follow, whether you're a game master or a player or maybe even an audience to look at. Bonjour, Morpheus bipeds. It is Monster Week, and this year's theme is Fae. If you don't know what Monster Week is, it is a community-driven event by Pony Hat and Jenny D, where they invite content creators within the TTRPG space to come together and to create videos around one topic. Check out the playlist for everybody who's talking about fairies this week. I'm still keeping an eye out to see if anybody has made a tier list about the different Tinkerbell movies, and if nobody has, I'm going to do that on Friday. I've created a PDF, a guide, a pamphlet for you to use and to give to your players or your audience, so that there is a common grounds of rules to understand. And I've broken down the 5 basic rules of the Fae that I think come up the most often and are the most fun to work with. Let's get into them. Rule number 0, just don't talk to the Fae. Don't make any contracts or avoid the Fae at all costs. But if you have to, let's talk about the real rules. Number 1, the power of 3. 3 is a magical number. It comes up all the time in literature, life, math, and there's something about this magical number that has power over the Fae. The way you're going to use this in your games or your story is that if a Fae creature tries to say something 3 times, once they say it a 3rd time, they're now going to be compulsed to do that thing. They can no longer talk their way out of it or try to stop doing it. The magic of the Feywild is going to make them do that thing. The other way this is used is that a Fae creature cannot lie about something 3 times. If somewhere is haunted and dangerous to go, they can tell you, oh yeah, that's safe. Oh yeah, no, you can go and you're totally fine. And they just can't say it a 3rd time. You can also use this against humans, your players, whatever. If they are in the Feywild or somewhere that the Fae have any influence, they just aren't gonna be able to lie 3 times. Or if you want a mechanical way to use this, on the 3rd lie that they try to tell about the same thing, they are gonna have to make a saving throw against the Zone of Truth spell, otherwise they're gonna be under that effect, and then end up blurting the truth out to the Fae, which would be a lot of fun. I guess Zone of Truth just stops you from lying. You don't have to tell the truth, but it would be funny if you had to tell the truth. Rule number 2. Power of names. Names have so much power. A name is a word that when it is spoken, a person comes to mind. I don't know if you realize how powerful that is, that our meat puppet bodies can hear a string of sounds put together and immediately have somebody's face, name, personality, and the last thing that you remember them doing all just pop into your mind all at once. That's kind of crazy. And within the Feywild, if a Fae has somebody's name, this power goes even further. The more names that a Fae has of somebody, the more power they have over them, the easier it is for them to compulse them. I like to think of the scrying spell, where the more knowledge you have of somebody, the more of a penalty they take to the saving throw to avoid being scryed on. With the Fae, it's like the more names that they have, the higher the DC it is for a player to avoid any enchantments from that Fae creature. This is just a mechanical way for you to use it, but I love this idea. I talk more about how names work and what each of them are. We'll just go over them really quickly. A first name, a given name, is something that people call you. This is like the obvious one. A middle name is like usually a Christian name, a religious name, maybe just a traditional name within a family. If a Fae creature has this, you can think of it as like another string that they grab onto and be like, oh, I now have the tradition string. Oh, I've got the first name string. And then the last name, a surname, a clan name, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter if the player rejects that name. If somebody is like, no, I don't go by my family name anymore, that still has power over them because it is part of who they are. Unless they take up a different last name, but then that last name has power over them because now that's a new heritage. Whether it's a new name that they just came up or took on themselves and it doesn't have to do with anybody else, then that makes them the first of that line and that has power. If they take on a mentor's last name, then they take on that mentor's heritage as well. Does this make any rational sense? No. Does this make sense to the Fae? Yes, and that is what matters, and that's why it has power. And if they have that 3rd string, bam, they now have your heritage string. Going back to the power of 3, if they have 3 names from somebody, they now have a great way to take away that person's total free will. In stories, this usually means that the person just can't say no to the Fae and have to be a yes man. But a way you can use this, again, mechanically in D&D, is just giving them like a -10 to saving throws. Are they most likely going to fail? Yes, but can they roll a really high roll, like a natural 20, and try through sheer force of will to get past something? Yeah, and I think that has some cool character moments. Also, before anybody says, I reject my last name, I have no names, I don't give anybody any names, nicknames count. If there is a name that other people call you and that you go by and that elicits an image in their mind of you within the context of you, that is power. So no being like, I have no name. Because if your party calls you Edgelord or Stabby McStabby Pants and the Fae gets that name, that counts. I'm sorry. The last little bit here is that somebody's name spoken from their own lips has more power, has more weight to it than spoken from somebody else's lips. So maybe somebody else has introduced you, the Fae creature now has your name, they get a little bit of power over you, but not nearly as much as if you had introduced or said your own name yourself to them. That's my list for today. No. 3. Barrier contracts. These are different from infernal or demonic contracts. If I like to think of Baldur's Gate 3, Will, his infernal contract is that he can't speak of the events leading up to him signing the contract, and he can't speak about who his employer is. He is just compulsed not to speak. That is like part of an infernal contract, is you are bound by the contract to do that thing. You can think of the infernal contract clause as being like a safety net for you to not accidentally break it and then be forced into the hells for the rest of your life because you broke your contract. Fae contracts, however, do not force you to follow them. In fact, I believe that fairies want you to fail the contract and will do everything they can to put clauses in there that you don't understand, hoping that you break one of them so that then you can be their little slave for the rest of your life. A Fae creature might ask you and sign up a contract for you saying, hey, if you go and negotiate the terms of peace with that Fae over there, I will give you exactly what you want. But it is important that you do not do any harm. This needs to be an amicable friendship. Do not hurt them. So you make your way over and you enter into the threshold of this other Fae creature. You step in and you step on a ladybug and you just broke that no harm clause. You might think in your head immediately, no, that contract said not to hurt them. You specifically said do not hurt them. Yes, they did say not to hurt them. But in the contract, it said do no harm. And unfortunately, you just did some harm. Is that bullshit? Is that stupid? Yes, that is how the Fae work. The Fae should be infuriating to work with, and you should never sign a contract with them. And if any players sign a contract, they need to be on their best behavior or suffer some consequences. It creates a really tasty story that is going to have people frustrated, but in the end, like, create a really tasty story. 4, fairy gifts, fairy food. If you walk into a banquet hall and there is food on a table laid out by the Fae and they say, welcome to the banquet, enjoy the food, and you start eating, you now owe a debt to the Fae court. Them telling you that you can start eating does not mean that you should immediately start eating. Gifts and food presented by the Fae are traps because they have now given you something, and because they have given you something, you have to give them something. This is an unspoken contract, a magic that you are now forced to, compulsed by, bound to help them out. And if you try to break this or ignore it or try to leave without trying to satisfy a debt, the Fae will hunt you down. You become #1 most wanted. Fae creatures across that court are going to see you and it is going to be kill on sight. The one caveat, the tip I have for players, the one clause is the gift freely given clause. If it is explicitly said, this is freely given, a player can accept it. They may eat that food. They may take the present, whatever it is, because it is freely given. There is no debt to be paid. So that is one thing that an experienced adventurer would need to keep in mind. Make sure they know whether or not a gift is freely given or if it is simply offered. 5, fairy circles. I love fairy circles because there are a variety of different ways that fairy circles work. The most common ones I can think of are like a teleportation between the Feywild and the material plane. Another one is if you step into one, you usually can't stop dancing until you drop, and sometimes it's from total exhaustion where you're just... And in D&D, there's some subclasses that say that you get your powers from having stepped into a fairy circle. How to cross with the Fey realm itself, but managed to come out with positive effects. And now your hair always smells like maple syrup. Fairy circles come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. They are not just circles of mushrooms you find in a forest. They could also be pebbles. They could be a spiral of things that create an imaginary circular outline. Oh, but I couldn't see the circular outline. That doesn't count. They don't care. It could be a canopy of trees where the leaves at the top create a nice perfect circle that when the sun shines through it onto the ground, it creates a circle of light. That could be a fairy circle. I also like the idea in urban fantasy of like weeds or clover having broken through the cracks of concrete and created a circle out in the middle of a city, maybe down an abandoned alleyway where people just keep disappearing and nobody knows why. This PDF is free. You can take it, download it, use it digitally, or print it off and give it to your players. Another fun thing you can do, cut it up and then hide it amongst your encounters. Maybe this pamphlet was torn up And now you can find one on like a fairy, and maybe there's like somebody who you can buy it from. Or better yet, a fae comes up to your party and says, hello, I've got a gift for you to help you survive the Feywild. It is important that you know these things. And your party goes, oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you so much. And then they read through them and they read the 4th line and they go, oh, this wasn't freely given, was it? And the fairy goes, no, I'm sorry. Now I need you to help me kill Mab, the Queen of Fairies. Whatever you do with it, have fun, let me know, and check out the rest of the Monster Week. Bye.